This is such a season for revival. And everybody out there wants revival. Most people don't know that's what they want. Most people just sense something is missing and they're afraid to admit it because everything they put their trust in has failed them. It took God showing up sovereignly outside my cabin in the woods so that a heart that had learned to mistrust and wall itself off from anything and everyone to trust that Jesus was real. Now, it was supernatural, I know it, but I'm telling you, he's the same God who shows up through you sharing a prophetic word, praying for somebody, or simply sharing about what he's done for you or what he could do for them. He's the same God. And it's just as supernatural when you talk about him as if he showed up sovereignly, because you know what? He is. When you share him, he's showing up sovereignly. I think I've told you guys this. I didn't used to share my testimony very much of how the Lord spoke to me because while I was so grateful for it, I would have people say when I was a young Christian, they'd say, oh man, I don't feel like I have a testimony. I mean, I got saved in Sunday school, or I got saved when somebody witnessed to me. Nothing supernatural like that. And one day the Lord asked me, why aren't you sharing your testimony the way you used to? And I told him, and he said, you don't get it, do you? And I was like, no, I guess I don't. He said, every single salvation is the exact same story where I make myself real to someone. You just were a little denser and took a little longer. And I was. But if you got saved in Sunday school, my sister, I found out after she rededicated her life to the Lord in a bathroom on an airplane. I found out because she called me after I'd been sharing with her. She was the only person in my family still talking to me because everybody thought I went nuts and joined a cult. I went sane and joined Jesus. But to all the people in my life, I get it. I was such a mocker and persecutor of Christians in the church that it was such a 180-degree turn. They had every right to question my sanity. It just took them some time to realize, no, he'd been messed up. Now he's not. But my sister was the only person in my family still talking to me, and she calls me one day because I've been sharing with her my journey with Jesus. And she said, hey, I've got a question for you. I said, what is it? She said, well, and she told me a story, but she said, you know, I've been thinking about what you shared with me, and I've been reading some of the stuff you sent me. And I was on a flight recently, and I could feel the presence of the Lord, and I knew it was my time to give my heart to him. I said, this is wonderful. What's your question? She said, well, it was so intimate. It was so personal that I didn't want to do it just amongst all the people on the plane. So I went to the back of the plane and went into the bathroom and sat down and closed the door so I could be by myself. And I said, this is amazing. And she said, I gave my heart to the Lord. I said, praise God. What's your question? She said, does it count if you do it in a bathroom? Sitting on a toilet? I said, it counts, it counts, it counts. He'll meet you anywhere. But when she told me this, I found something out I didn't know. My sister actually originally got saved at the age of 7, watching the cartoon Davy and Goliath, which came on after Gumby on Sunday mornings. I was a big Saturday morning cartoon guy. There were a handful of cartoons, Popeye and then Gumby on Sunday morning that I watched, but I never watched Davy and Goliath. My sister did. And if you don't remember Davy and Goliath, it was claymation, boy and his dog, and it had a religious overtone, and I guess they did an altar call at the end of this claymation cartoon, and one day my sister gave her life to the Lord. She got saved. So whether it's through claymation, speaking to the one member of your family nobody else will talk to, Sunday school, somebody sharing with you on the street, I mean, there was a time when I didn't think I had much of a testimony because one of the first testimonies I heard was of a guy I was part of a miracle crusade with as a brand new Christian, and I got to know him in Africa. And he told me the way he came to know the Lord was because he had gotten out of the army, was going through a very difficult time, and was going to kill himself. And he had his service weapon in his mouth, and he pulled the trigger. And as he pulled the trigger, the Lord stepped through the wall, put his hand on the gun, and the hammer fell, but the bullet didn't fire. And he said, that made me know God was real. You think? And I thought, this is dramatic. I just had the presence of God manifest and say, I refuse not to love you. And I had to realize, no, that's a profound testimony because it's mine. Your testimony is profound because it's yours. And this is a season to share our testimonies because the world is desperate for a power greater than itself that they can actually count on.
Ready for more? Go to roberthodgkin.com for more teachings, more resources, and more information about Robert Hotchkin Ministries and Men on the Front Lines.